This is Yair Davidi, speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, speaking to you on behalf of Brit and Hebrew nations. We are now considering the lost 10 tribes amongst Western peoples. Descendants of the lost 10 tribes are now to be found amongst nations in the West. They are to be found in the nations of Western Europe, such as Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, Ireland, Scotland, England, Wales, and also in the offshoots of the British overseas, such as the USA, Canada, Australia and New Zealand. On the whole, we identified the English-speaking peoples of North America and also the British Isles and the offshoots with the forces of Joseph. And out of all these countries that we have mentioned, we're not saying that everyone in these nations is descended from lost 10 tribes of Israel, but we're saying lost 10 tribes of Israel are there. That is where they are to be found. That is where they gave expression to their tribal identities. And that is where they are located according to the Bible, as confirmed or in addition to secular evidence. Now we're going to give a very brief outline, because sometimes brief outlines are needed, of the proofs that we have that affirm this. And this is entitled An Outline on One Foot. And if you come to Israel or you hang around Jewish or especially religious Jews, in the ambience of Orthodox Jews, you might often come across the expression on one foot, beregula had. Explain something to me on one foot. So this means to give a quick, succinct explanation, or to say something very briefly but to the point. Especially as when you have something to explain and to expand upon, don't drag it out. Just get it down in a couple of sentences, say what you want to say, and that's it. So this is called on regular had, on one foot, and the source of this expression is from a story about Hillel. Hillel was a sage in the Talmud. He was a famous sage. He was one of the most prominent, important sages. One of the sages, that is someone who gives over the law, or explains the law, explains the Bible, and the oral tradition according to the law. And he was known for being not liberal but lenient in a lot of his rulings, and he was together with Shammai. Hillel and Shammai were both friends and rivals, so used to have disputations between each other. Hillel, as I said, is known as being lenient, and Shammai was more strict. So the story is told about a Gentile who wished to convert to Judaism. But first he wanted to learn the Torah, so he came to Shammai and he said, tell me the whole Torah on regular had, while standing on one foot. And Shammai was the builder and had a builder's staff in his hand, so he got irritated. He thought it was impertinent to be that such a request be made of him. So he chased the prospective convert away. And the convert went to Hillel, and he made the same request, and Hillel said to him, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. I repeat, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. The rest is commentary, go and learn. And that was it. In other words, that was the whole Torah, whole of the Bible, of the moral and ethical applications of the Bible may be summarized in this expression: what is hateful to you, do not do to someone else. And so that is where we get the expression from, on one foot. And incidentally, this advice is similar to that of King Alfred. King Alfred was the King of England, one of the first kings of England, of Anglo-Saxon England, after the Angles and Saxons conquered England from the so-called Celtic peoples who lived there, and they set up their kingdom. And King Alfred is famous as being one of the early kings, and he fought against the Vikings. He also laid the foundations of English law. He was he taught himself, and he was taught by others, but he did this at the somewhat advanced age, and he became quite a scholar. He was quite a scholar in his own right, and he also encouraged scholarship, and he did all this while fighting battles and waging wars, and sometimes having to flee from the enemy and hide from the enemy, and then being defeated and coming back and recovering and regrouping and so on. And then he laid the foundation of English law. And Winston Churchill, for instance, who some consider the greatest Englishman who ever lived, he considered King Alfred to be the greatest Englishman who ever lived, because King Alfred laid the basis of common law, and he used biblical sources. He quoted verbatim large sections of the Bible in his laws, and elsewhere he applied biblical criticisms. So anyway, Winston Churchill, in his History of the English-speaking Peoples, I'm going from memory now, I haven't got it before me, but in the first volume he quotes King Alfred to the effect that the correct application of the injunction, love your neighbour as yourself, love your neighbour as yourself, it's in the Bible, it's in Leviticus 19 verse 18, 19:18 Leviticus, love your neighbour as yourself, and it's a famous general rule. So King Alfred said that the correct application of this injunction should be not to do to others what you do not want them to do to you. That is similar to what Hillel said. What's hateful to you, do not do to your neighbour. And we also we find in a work on King Alfred the Great in our common law by Professor Dr. F.N. Lee of Australia, Brisbane, Australia, he quotes King Alfred. Moreover, adds King Alfred, do not do to other men whatever you wish that other men should not do to you. From this one judgment, a man may perceive that he should judge everyone rightly. He need keep no other judgment book. So in other words, King Alfred is saying that's the whole thing. Do not do to other men whatever you wish that other men should not do to you. That is the same that was said, that Hillel said. And it's interesting, or to speculate whether or not somehow or other there was not an influence of a Jewish influence that reached King Alfred, that led him to give this identical observation that Hillel had done, or otherwise King Alfred himself was a great man, as no one disputes, and he had reached this conclusion on his own. Anyway, we get off the track, and when you want to say something and on one foot and make it very short, you should be careful about getting off the track. Keep to the point, and the point is that we want to give an overall summary, a very brief overall summary of what we believe in. And those of us who are aware of this odd ancestry of Western peoples, as we explain, as our explanation explains, and researches and propagates and works towards spreading the knowledge of, the lost ten tribes are now to be found amongst Western peoples. This is important. This is the most important task we have, to spread knowledge of this ancestry, to inform the peoples who are concerned, to inform the peoples who are so descended, and also to tell the Jewish people about it, to make it commonly known and well known, and to have it proven. We have proof, and have had the proofs that we have come to the public consciousness, come before the public. So it happens that those of us who know about this, who've learnt it, we might come to a situation where we're asked to tell someone else about it, or tell a group of people about it. Sometimes you get situations that are not a black and white. You don't know how much time you're going to get, whether 2 minutes or 2 hours. So we've prepared an overall, a very brief, succinct explanation of what we believe in from the Bible, from history, from rabbinical sources, and this, well, we have prepared. This can be given over. It's interesting. It gives all the main points, or most of the main points, and also if questions are asked, it's very easy to expound upon. And so therefore you can spread it out or cut it down according to the situation. So this is what we have to say. From a biblical point of view, we say that Abraham, Isaac and Jacob was renamed Israel. They were the forefathers of the Hebrew people. They were promised that their seed would be extremely numerous, that they would possess on the national level great wealth, agricultural plenty, mineral resources. They were also promised that they would become the most powerful nations on earth, that they would dwell in several oceans, that they would rule the seas, that they would dictate their will to the peoples of the world, that they would cause other nations to come into being. Other nations would be dependent on them for their very existence. Also that they would possess the strategic thoroughfares of the world, the gates of their enemies, meaning the strategic points, giving them an advantage of accessing other nations that were potentially antagonistic to them. And these blessings were to receive their expression primarily through Joseph. Joseph was the son of Jacob, and but Joseph had been given these promises as well as the other tribes getting the promises. Joseph had been given an extra portion, and Joseph had been given a blessing on his own, which shows us that these blessings were especially to be expressed through him. And we identify Joseph, the descendants of Joseph, as we said, with the English-speaking peoples. And they have fulfilled all of what we have said. You find all of what we have said amongst the English-speaking peoples. They are the ones who are extremely numerous. They are the ones who possess great wealth, mineral resources, the possession of mineral resources, agricultural plenty. They have been the most powerful nations on the earth, and they still are. They dwell in several oceans. They rule the seas. They dictate their will to other peoples. They have brought other nations into being, and other nations are dependent upon them for their very existence. So first we had the British Empire, and now we have the USA, which is a successor of the British Empire, is complementing the British Empire. It overlaps, it has seamlessly replaced the British Empire in many ways, but it is continuing, from a historical point of view, it is continuing the very functions of the British Empire fulfilled. They are one and the same thing from an historical point of view. But also, these nations, the British and after them the Americans, possess the strategic passages of the world, and that is what they base their foreign policy, military policy, and military strategic on, obtaining possession of strategic points, especially amongst those of potentially hostile nations, and they've done that all over the world. And they're the only empire which has done that, the only group of nations or historically significant section of peoples who have done that persistently. And they fulfill all of the blessings, and all of these blessings are what was promised to them and was promised to Joseph. So this proves that these nations do belong to Joseph. And all of what we have said from all the blessings that we mentioned may be seen in the books of Genesis, the books of Numbers, and the books of Deuteronomy in the Bible. The Israelites were also promised the land of Canaan, the Holy Land, the promised land. They were commanded to keep the law. Dwelling in the land of Canaan was contingent, it was dependent upon keeping the law. This issue of dwelling in the land and keeping the law is a separate matter, it is separate from the other blessings. It was not unconditional. The other blessings were unconditional, this is not. And this, at present, keeping the law and dwelling in the land is the responsibility of the section of the Israelites known as Judah. In other words, the Jewish people, and that is what they are doing, and they should be encouraged to do that. The Jews should be encouraged to keep the law, to keep their religion, and also to dwell in the land of Israel. This is what God wants, and this is for the good of the world. In case those of you are not certain of what we are referring to, Israelite nation split into two different sections. So 12 tribes of Israel are split into two different groups. The northern 10 tribes were taken into exile. They were taken away by the Assyrians. They lost consciousness of their identity, but historically they remained together in the historically recognizable cohesive units. They moved to the north, and from the north they moved to the west, and they populated Western Europe. And the Bible says that they would lose their identity. The Bible says they would not be known to Judah. And they forgot who they were. But nevertheless, they still have a destiny to fulfill. Joseph has a destiny to fulfill. So too do the other tribes also have a destiny to fulfill. And the other tribes, not only Joseph and Judah, but also each and every one of the other tribes, most of the tribes who were amongst the 10 tribes, also had, each one of them had the tribal characteristics which they retained to some degree and gave expression to historically, and they had individual tribal blessings, each and every one of them. For instance, Zebulun was promised that he should dwell on the shores of the sea, and he should dwell on the shores of the sea, and we find a nation known as Zebulun Goy. It's mentioned in the geography of Ptolemy. Zebulun Goy was a nation who he marks their existence in what is now northern region of the Netherlands. And Zebulun Goy in Hebrew means Zebulun means Zebulun or Zebulun, as he says, and Goy means nation. In other words, the nation of Zebulun. And he puts it in the Netherlands area. And then in the Netherlands, it's the only country in the world which literally does dwell on the shores of the sea. 2/3 of the population are literally speaking on the very shores of the sea. 1/3 of the Neverland population is below sea level. Another third is in an in-between area which still needs protection from sea inundation, from sea flooding and so on, and that is where they have dikes and so on, and they reclaimed most of the about 2/3 of the land of the Neverlands has been reclaimed from the sea land by pushing the sea back or putting up dikes and barriers and drainage works and so on to recover land from the sea. And this is the only country in the world where this is applicable, and it's the only country in the world where historically we find a people who are actually called the people of Zebulon. And so too with all of the other tribes, we go through each and every one of the tribes and we can find similar proofs. And these proofs have to be taken all together as one coherent whole, and each and every piece of evidence interlocks with and confirms the other. So this is what we have. This is a proof, and we should concentrate on the Bible, the biblical proof, because the Bible is true and the biblical proofs are the strongest and the most certain. We also have rabbinical sources from the Talmud, from Midrashim, from rabbinically accepted commentaries on the Bible, and they say that the 10 tribes will be in Sarafat. Actually, the Bible in the book of Obadiah says that. They say the 10 tribes will be in Sarafat, and Sarafat means France. That's what they say. France and also England and the nations to the north in that region. They say this is where the lost 10 tribes will be, and they also say that the lost 10 tribes will be in the land of Sinim, meaning Australia, and that they will be in different areas, and that various biblical verses refer to the lost 10 tribes in their places of exile. And these biblical verses are the biblical verses which we use in our proofs, which helps us because it helps us confirm that our application of certain specific biblical verses to the lost 10 tribes is correct. And this is the importance of rabbinical sources. Rabbinical sources also identify Edom, the nations of Edom. Edom was the arch enemy of Israel. He was a brother nation to Israel, but he became their arch enemy. They say that Edom became the peoples of Rome and Germany, or primarily the Roman Germany, and they said that only Joseph is capable of defeating Edom. That's what the Talmud says, that's what rabbinical sources say. And historically we have the British and the Americans and the other related peoples from Joseph who did defeat both Germany and Rome in World War II, and they also defeated Germany in World War I, and they have proven their ability to do this, and this alone is an indication that they belong to the tribe of Joseph. It confirms what we know from other evidence that they belong to the tribe of Joseph. We also have historical sources, and these historical sources show the 10 tribes. We have records of them. We can trace them in the Syrian Empire and how they linked up or became part of the confederations of the Cimmerians and the Scythians, and how they moved to the north and from there to the west, and how they moved into Western Europe, or others of them moved straight to what is now Spain, and from Spain they were pushed out into Ireland and into the British Isles and into what is now France and related areas. And we can prove all this from archaeology and mythology and historical writings. And taking it all together, this also proves that these nations are descended from lost 10 tribes, or at least the lost 10 tribes amongst them. And we should emphasize that we have to take all of the different aspects of evidence, all the different proofs point in the same direction. They all complement each other and supplement each other and overlap and interlink, and they all confirm, and they're all mutually dependent, and they all are proofs. They all prove the point. But we should always try and get back to the point that concerning the paramountcy of the Bible. Biblical proofs are our main proofs. Biblical proofs are what we most rely upon, and the others come to help us out, to confirm it, to give it, to add added dimension to what we speak about. And this is important. It is important for the people who hear it. It's important for the Western nations. It is important for the peoples of the world. It's important for everyone to know these truths, to be aware of them, to learn about them, and to internalize them. May God bless all of you. Thank you.